Hello everybody. So first of all, I would like to say thanks to Master Admin for taking up such sessions in totally virtual platform, and also thanks to Saptarshi and Manish for their wonderful sessions. Okay, so this session is going to be a session on time series forecasting, but not in a traditional way, but rather we are trying to follow some deep learning based approaches, or you can say the complicated neural network based approaches as an alternative way. Okay, so before jumping into the problem, let me talk about the data set. So currently we are exploring the stock market data set, and it is not needed to mention, but I think we should aware of those things, that I have taken the stock data, historical stock prices for Google and so other other organizations like IBM, Microsoft, and other organizations. And currently, whatever I am going to showcase, that is based on the Google historical prices. Okay, that model is trained on Google historical prices, but it can be automated and it can be developed for other organizations as well. And another thing that I want to focus on mainly is that the raw time series data cannot be fed into the model directly. It needs some kind of pre-processing. So in traditional ways, by pre-processing you mean that mean subtraction or standardization, min max scalar, those things are there. But apart from those things, some reshaping of data is also there. Okay, because LSTM or any recurrent neural network based models cannot understand the if they are not given in a specific form, right? So I will be discussing on those parts, and then finally show you the trained model, because in this session I'm not going to train the model, rather it has been trained already and I'm going to show that. And as a result section I will show you some of the graphs where I have plotted the actual data along with the predicted as well as the forecasted data, and also the performance metrics like mean absolute percentage error and all. So let's start. So it is I have, as I have already mentioned, that this data is from the Google, and we have considered the data set in a generic term from 1991, but unfortunately for Google the data set is not available from 1991. It is available from 2004 to 2020, 16th of April we have considered, and we have trained the model up to the 31st of January 2020 and validated the model beyond that part. So it's 1st February to 16th of April 2020. And based on the next date, we have forecasted for next 5 days. So up to 21st of April, we have the forecasted values based on a 10 days history. In time series. Sorry. Uh, is there any questions?
No,
Somebody is talking.
carry on, please.
Okay. So in traditional time series data, you need a history to look back, and based on that history, you are going to make forecast for a few many days in the future, right? So that's all. That's all about the model and data configurations. You can see over here that training date, validation end date, the history size that is considered as 10 days, and forecast is basically for next 5 days. Target column index is the position of the target column where the close price is there, and dropout rate, learning rate, batch size, n epochs, and also some model names. So let me download the data first from Google Finance and show you the first view of the data. How it looks like. Okay, so that's all about the data set. It has 7 columns, one of which is the date, the first column, and there are other columns like high, low, open, close, volume, and adjusted close. So high, low, open, and close, these are basically the prices. High price is basically the maximum price for a given day. Low price is the lowest price for a given day. Open price is the price when the stock market is just started. And close price is basically it's the price recorded before the market has closed for the day. Another columns are also there, volume and adjusted close. So volume is basically the number of stocks, and adjusted close, most probably they have done some kind of adjustment or fine tuning on top of the close price, and they derive that column, adjusted close. So in our case, the target variable is the close price, okay, and rest of the other variables are considered as a feature variable. Obviously, the date is separated. The first step that I am going to do is basically to partition the original time series into two parts. One is the train part, another one is the forecast validation part. So you can see over here that the data frame, original data frame, has been filtered based on the training end date, right? And after that, the validation part has been extracted from the data in the same way. So you can see that out of the available records, only 3,890 records along with the 7 variables are available for training, and 52 records along with 7 variables are available for the validation, right? So then let me show you the original time series. How does it look like? So how has been the performance for Google from 2004 to 2020 April? So the original time series. You can see that there upward trend in the data, and if I zoom in for the recent case, there is a dip in the data because of this COVID-19 and this pandemic, right? So we are going to train this data. We are going to validate our model on a separate part, and also to have forecasted values for next 5 days. So the next part is the pre-processing part. Over here, what I am doing is basically normalizing the data. So normalizing means the feature scale. So I have taken the approach of mapping the feature in a uniform scale, uniform distribution between 0 and 1, and then they have been inverted to the original scale in the time of forecasting. Now the important part. So how are we going to reshape our data for LSTM or any kind of recurrent neural network based model? So before going into that, you should know that in recurrent neural net based model, they are sequential model, and especially for time series, there is a concept of time steps, right? So over here also, we have considered the time step, and there are mainly 3 parameters. One is the sample size, next is the time steps, and third one is the feature size. So if you can combine those 3 parameters, you will eventually get a 3-dimensional array of numbers. Okay, so it has the row, it has column, and for each cell, they are also vectors. Each cell is also a vector. So over here is the toy data. So this data has been designed to have date from 1st of January for a certain year up to the 17th of January. Okay, and you can see that there is a target variable y, obviously, and there are 2 other feature variables, x1 and x2. And I have computed the feature variables by some linear association. So you can see that 30 is basically 10 multiplied by 3. So there is a linear association, and also x2 is also a linear association of y. So that's how I computed this artificial data. And in the yellow box, yellow card, there are 3 parameters, history size. So I am going to look 4 days behind, and based on that, I am going to make a forecast for next 6 days, which is not a good practice, because in real life scenarios, whatever your forecasting period is, your history period should be uh, bigger than or equal to that. It's quite intuitive, right? So if we are going to make forecast for 10 days, we should have at least 10 days history, or at let's say 11 days or 15 days history. But for the sake of simplicity, this is the toy example. Now let's focus on the samples that can be extracted from this toy dataset. As you can see that from 1st January to 4th January, the records are available as 10, 20, 30, and 40 for Y. X1 is 30, 60, 90, and 120, and X2 is 65, 125, 185, and 245. Okay. Similarly, you can see that in the X part, we have considered this whole matrix of 3 rows and 4 columns as the sample 1, and we have a 6 days ahead forecast. That's why the forecasted values, or you can say the y values, that is also a vector, that is basically from 5th of January to 10th of January. So it's a vector of 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 and 100. Likewise, the in the second sample, the first observation starts with 20, 30, 40 and 50. If I talk in terms of dates, it starts with 2nd of January, goes are up to 6th of January most probably, no, the 5th of January, sorry. And accordingly, the uh, target variable starts from 6th of January to 11th of January. So in this way, you can create the data set for LSTM to train, right? As you can see over here, that if we have 17 days of total historical prices, we are not able to extract all the records in terms of LSTM samples, right? Some records are missing because of this window-based approach, right? So from the during the ultimate presentation of graphs, we are not able to present the first few data sets from the beginning. Rather, we can show the data set from the end. So if I give you an example, so we have training data up to 31st of January, starting from 2004 April. So first few days of April 2004 are not going to be shown in the plot. So that's the point I need to make it clear. Another thing is that whenever your training data is ready and you are able to train the model uh, based on this configuration, then you need some test data to make forecast on, right? So here is an example of test data that is also, I think I have missed one row. So I should have created another row because it should have been 3 rows, 4 columns. So sorry for that, but ideally it should have been 3 rows and 4 columns. So once you have that dimensional vector or matrix, you can say, you will be able to make a forecast for next 6 days. Okay, so there is a function, there is definitely a function, custom functions written for that, to convert a raw time series into a LSTM compatible data set, or you can say the training data set. So over here I am calculating the training data set for validation as well as the training part. So train X and train Y is basically the features and labels for training part, and valid X and valid Y, they are features and labels for the validation part, right? Then it comes to the point of shape. What is the shape of those data after this reshaping? Okay, so as you can see, the training X or the training features is of shape 3876, 10 history, so that is why 10 time steps, and 6 features. Similarly, the Y shape is 3876 with 5 days forecast. That's why it's 5. And if you see the validation part, 38, 10, 6. That means there are 38 samples out of 52 records. And each sample is of length 10 because of the time step 10. And each time step has 6 features or 6 dimensional features. And similarly, Y is of 38 cross 5. So Y is a 2D matrix. It has 38 records or 38 rows, and each row is a 5-dimensional vector. So Y is also a vector. That is the difference between any kind of recurrent neural network based model compared to the feed-forward network, simple feed-forward network. So now this is the pictorial representation of the model that I have considered after some iterations. So as you have observed that in our dataset there are 10 time steps. So you can see that there are 10 yellow boxes, 10 such yellow boxes, each representing a time step, and each of them are being fed a vector of 6 dimensions. Those are basically the feature vector. Okay, and during the initialization of this model, we also need 2 different vectors. They are called the cell state and also the hidden state. The red balls are basically the hidden state. They are basically vectors, and the green balls, they are also the cell state containing the memory from one LSTM cell to another LSTM cell. And these green boxes or the green balls are going to be modified during this training. Okay, so initially they are represented as a vector of all ones. That means the full memory. Now, if you go in a deep level, so you can say, you can see that those cell state and hidden states are being modified by 4 gates. So those gates are basically forget gate, input gate, and update gate. Right? So those gates are modifying the cell state as well as the hidden state, and ultimately the hidden state, the last cell, the hidden state is being recorded, and it's being modified, or you can say projected to a different vector space of dimension 5, get the forecasted value. So that's all. This is our simplest vanilla LSTM architecture. Now, 2 points about our architecture is that this is not a deep LSTM neural network. Rather, you can say that this is a vanilla LSTM because there is a single layer. So I could have multiple layer associated with this architecture, but that's for the next part. I mean, basically the future purposes. I'm going to explore those things. And another thing is that we could have implemented encoder decoder based network as well, but that is the work in progress mode. So I'm not going to share on those things. Okay, so execute model training, the next part. I have already trained a model, and that is saved in my Google Drive. So I'm going to load that model. Okay, the model is loaded. Now it's time to calculate the prediction as well as the forecasted values, as I have there. Okay, so the graph you can see is basically the actual price with the fitted price. So it has been taken from 2004. Some part is missing because of that uh, sample generating architecture. But as you can see that up to this 2016, the feature actual values and forecasted values, sorry, predicted values are available, or fitted values are available. If I zoom into that part, you can see how close the predicted values or the fitted values are. Now, the next step is to go for a validation as well as forecasting. Okay, so this is the forecasting and also the predicted part of the validation period. So as you can see, up to this point, 16th April 2020, we have available the blue lines and also the red lines. So basically, blue line is the actual price, and up to this 16th April, red line has to be considered as the predicted value, sorry, fitted values. And beyond that, red line has been extended up to 21st of April. So that is the forecasted part. Okay, so you can see that forecasted values starting from 17th of April. Okay, so based on these activities or exercise, I'm going to compute two different, not two, one different metric for training as well as the validation part. So that is the popular MAPE metric. MAPE stands for mean absolute percentage error. So which is basically a difference, or you can say then relative difference of actual and forecasted values. MAPE is calculated in that way. So I calculated the MAPE for training and the validation part. As you can see, the training part, the MAPE is around 4.54%, and for the validation part, it is around 6.91. So you can consider it 7%. So that's all for the modeling basis. And the thing for future scope is gated recurrent unit based forecasting model. So I just need to replace the LSTM cells with the GRU based cells, and I need to measure the performance of that. I hope that GRU cells will perform better because GRU cells are simplified compared to LSTM cells, and often they are suitable for handling the overfitting of the models. And also the next step would be to use encoder decoder based LSTM to go for this kind of forecasting models, because you can say that stock market data is highly volatile, right? So it's very difficult to forecast based on a 6 or 7 variables. Rather, the actual forecasting models are considering so many other variables. They are mining the tweets, they are mining the social media, newspapers, everything. But this is to have a start on this. So I would like to mention about one must project that we were working on. So Joy, Srijat, Arijit, we have started that project a couple of years back, but because of the lack of knowledge, I would say, so we could not complete that project. But the objective was to have a model on the forecasted sale, so that a particular person can have the forecasted values, forecasted close price beforehand, and based on that, he or she can have the decision whether to purchase that stock or whether to sell that stock. So this is, you can say, a continuation of that work, and it is still under improvement. We are about to start working on the future scopes as well. Uh, that's all. I mean, that's the end of this session, you can say. Now I'm ready for questions. So if you have anything, you can ask.
Yeah, thank you, Kaushik, for your session. I will stop the recording now, and after that, we can attend
Yeah,
questions.
sure, sure.